Hey everybody, good to see you. I'm just gonna check to. I really appreciate you guys coming here tonight and being here with me for this live stream. I'm just checking my phone to make sure that the audio is coming through correctly. Mary's asking if anybody's here yet. So we got a few people on here. I'm just checking my phone as things. I want to make sure we got this thing going. Live. Okay, good. Stream. Sorry about that. The audio is working. So, thank you so much for coming tonight and being here for this. Before we get started, we have a minute left before the official 7 o'clock launch. I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance. I didn't want to just start early, be like, hey, be here at 7 o'clock, and we start early. So I just wanted to make sure and start a couple minutes early to test and make sure the audio, because I haven't done a live stream on our new YouTube channel. So welcome to our new YouTube channel. But of course, because of how the powers that shouldn't be work, I encourage you to make sure that you are always subscribing to our email list or our text alert list, so that whatever, if we get shut down, that you are still getting notified about what we're doing. And so that if we disappear again off of YouTube, that you'll know exactly where to find us and what we're doing. So just go to treeoflibertysociety.com with that. And encourage you, as I point out in the chat, is that if you have any questions, right? Some things have come up before, or if there's something I'm not covering quite clear enough, or you need a clarification, please put it in the chat. Would love to see where you're viewing from, or any questions you might have, any thoughts that you might have. So we are at 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get officially started. Again, thank you so much for joining. And so today, as the title of the video says, we're going to be talking about skull and bones. And if you've been following my work for any length of time, you know that I have discovered a second chapter of the Skull and Bones Society. And so, and as you can see right here, we have our books on, and volume 2 covers this greatly. And but there are other books out there. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel when I talked about Skull and Bones, or the Council on Foreign Relations, or any other aspect that people have covered before. When I wrote volume 1 and 2, good evening, Mrs. Chef Yoda. Thank you for coming. And I wanted to make sure that you weren't just rehashing. You weren't just, I already read this before. I wanted to make sure that in the books, that basically it's new information. It's things that you couldn't get other places. And so what we've been able to do is I believe, quite important. But if you're not aware of Skull and Bones, or if you haven't watched my other videos, I encourage you to go check out on the channel or on the website, Skull and Bones. Just do a search on the website or on this channel for Skull and Bones. But before I get into the second chapter of Skull and Bones, I wanted to point out a couple of great resources to learn in depth about Skull and Bones. The first one is this book right here, America's Secret Establishment by Anthony Sutton. He's no longer living. But this is one of the best books on Skull and Bones that is out there. And then we have this book right here, which is another fantastic book, and that is The Secrets of the Tomb. Secrets of the Tomb, and this one's by Alexandra Robbins. And so this is another important book as we learn about what the Skull and Bones Society is, what they're all about, what are their beliefs, what are their goals. And I'm sure, I'm not going to rehash a lot of the things behind the Skull and Bones that other people have seen, that you've got other YouTube channels that have gotten into detail about the Skull and Bones Society. But as a recap, just to kind of bring us all up to basic speed, I will kind of give some introduction. So you have Skull and Bones. Most people understand that the Skull and Bones Society, they've heard about, if you've heard about Skull and Bones Society, you've heard about it at Yale. And in fact, when this book came out, America's Secret Establishment, in the book, Anthony Sutton says that it is the only chapter of Skull and Bones. And so it's pretty interesting and exciting that we were able to find another organization within another chapter of that organization. And so what led me to decide to do this live stream was there are some individuals out there, maybe you've seen some of these videos, where they are claiming that the two different chapters or the two different organizations are different from each other. That one of them, like the University of Utah one, might be more conservative, or it's not. You don't have to do the what's it called? You don't have to do the initiations that you have to do at the Yale organization, at the University of Utah organization. And so what I wanted to do is to provide you with the data that we have. And so we've got literally hundreds and probably thousands of pages on the Utah Skull and Bones Society that we've been able to gather together and collect. Some actual documents that are exclusive. We are the only ones that have this. Thank you. If you're watching the person that gave it to us, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll be sharing that a little bit later, which also help us make a connection between the two organizations in addition to the other data that we also have. So again, for those of you joining us, please feel free to type any questions that you might have in the chat, and I will get to them as I can. And so also before I wanted to just give a quick plug for our book club. We will be covering, right now we will be in our book club that we do every first and third Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we're covering Invasion Volume 2. And so we'll be covering chapters 1 and 2, our next one. That'll be the first Wednesday in April. So it'll be exciting for you to do that. I encourage you to go get a copy of the book. So the Skull and Bones Society they're basically another tentacle of this Hydra beast, of this international conspiracy. And the official story, according to Skull and Bones, is the order, and it was started in 1832. The Yale organization was started in 1832 by two individuals, William Huntington Russell, with the help of Alphonso Taft, as a chapter 322 of a secret society. So now remember that, 322, chapter 322. And that's an important distinction, an important number to remember when we want to figure out what the connections are between Yale and the University of Utah. And the society, it worships the goddess Eulogia. It's spelled Eulogia. Eulogia, I think is how you pronounce it. Blessing or blessed thing is what it means, and whom they say rose to the heavens at the death of a Greek orator in the year 322, so 322 AD. And Eulogia did not return until 1832, where, according to legend, she took up residence in the tomb of Skull and Bones. The German society was called the Totenbund, or Order of Death. Okay, so that's hopefully some things that aren't really talked about a lot when you hear about Skull and Bones and what they're really all about. I want to go through some of the, we have the video clips you might have seen where Tim Russert, Meet the Press, says to George W. Bush, you were both in Skull and Bones, meaning you and John Kerry, the two presidential nominees for the two parties in 2004. You're both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. George W. Bush, it's so secret we can't talk about it. Tim Russert says, what does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild. George W. Bush, I'm sure they are. And then John Kerry, Russert asked John Kerry, you both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? John Kerry says, not much, because it's a secret. Russert says, is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code? John Kerry, I wish there were something secret I could manifest there. Russert, 322, a secret number? John Kerry, there are all kinds of secrets, Tim. And really just shut off the discussion right there. They really don't want to talk about those things when they're brought out. But what's interesting, kind of just comparing and contrasting the two organizations, if you look at Yale publications as well as the University of Utah publications, you look in their yearbooks and their newspapers, and both Yale and the University of Utah, They are regularly mentioned, talked about. You have they're in the yearbook up until basically the 1960s, 1970s, and then poof, gone. Silence, nothing is available at either organization at about the same time. Okay? And let's see here. I just want to kind of go over some of the information. So there's an interview, a video that was broadcast in April of 2001. Reporter Ron Rosenbaum was able to witness the rites of the Skull and Bones, and he wrote, quote, using high-tech night vision video equipment, able to peer through the gloom into the inner courtyard of the Skull and Bones tomb in New Haven, end of quote. He goes on to say, quote, the three-line Skull and Bones initiation ritual theme that has bound three presidents. The hangman equals death, the devil equals death, death equals death. And Rosenbaum goes on to quote, he says, they were forced face-to-face with a shocking tableau. A guy holding what seemed like a butcher knife, wearing a kind of animal skin, barbarian look, stood over what seemed to be a woman covered in fake blood and not much else. The neophyte then approached a skull a few feet away from the knife wielder and victim tableau. The neophyte knelt and kissed the skull, at which point the guy with the knife knelt and cut the throat of the prone figure. Okay? So there are a lot of different, things that have talked about with the Skull and Bones and the initiation. And so what I'd like to clarify about the initiation at both Yale and and at University of Utah. Yeah, death equals death, yes. So a lot of people think that they have the same exact ritual every single year. And at Yale, it's not. There are some elements that repeat themselves, but as I think we're going to get into a little bit later, there are major parts of it that are different every year. That the previous class is the one that chooses certain things that happen every year, and so there are parts of it that are repeated, and some of it that are never repeated again, or just unless they're thought of by the senior class, and that's both at Yale and the University of Utah. And so when some people say, well, they don't have to do this thing at the University of Utah. Well, they don't have to do that, some of those things at Yale either, not anymore, but it was just a one-time thing that was recorded by an individual. And so that's an important thing to remember as well, is there's only certain parts of the initiation that are repeated for each one. And so there are parts of it, well, let's get into we're kind of 10 minutes in. Let's get into the connection to University of Utah from Yale. And so this is again from my book, Invasion, Volume 2. University of Utah became home to a new chapter of Skull and Bones, founded 19th of May, 1909. That same year, Anson Phelps Stokes, Yale bonesman and the secretary of Yale faculty, wrote to fellow bonesman Dean Benjamin Brewster, who came to Utah in 1906 as Dean of St. Mark's Cathedral. Okay, so we have all of the references as well, so you can do your own research and look up, make sure, just see that I'm not just making up stuff. And so we have here, again, just to kind of repeat, and let's see if I can share that. There we go. On the website here at the Salt Lake Herald, and this is about Reverend Brewster, where he talks about that. Let's see here if I can do that, Benjamin Brewster. And so he's doing the research. We've been able to show that these two individuals were part of the Skull and were both part of Yale Skull and Bones. So you have two Yale Skull and Bonesmen, one of them at Yale still, and the other one here in Utah at the University of Utah. And the one at Yale, Anson Phelps, tells Benjamin Brewster about and to form a group. So Stokes told Brewster to start a Yale alumni organization in Utah, to which Brewster complied. the chapter's entire presidency being Skull and Bones members now living in Utah. So in 1909 was when it was founded, but in 1906 is when they start to form this nucleus of Skull and Bones members from Yale in the state of Utah. Okay, and then it is Dean Benjamin Brewster then who forms the chapter of Skull and Bones at the University of Utah. So we know who formed the Skull and Bones chapter in Utah. Now, was it a separate organization? No. It is a chapter of the same organization at Yale. Skull and Bone members at Yale come to Utah, form a chapter of Skull and Bones. It is a direct connection. They are spreading their work abroad. Okay. We learn a lot about the society through the university's yearbooks. In one of their yearbooks, it says that the society is a secret one and their ways are deep and mysterious. So let me just take a break from the book for a second, and let's get to, I want to share some screenshots with you from a presentation that I've given before. And so we see here, this is in 1910 when they form the chapter at the University of Utah. And then we see here, this is in the Utonian, that same year that they were formed, their first year. The society is a secret one, and their ways are deep and mysterious. Then we go here, and we see in the yearbook again that Skull and Bones makes us believe in infanticide. Well, what's infanticide? It's the murder of babies, not abortion. These are living and born babies that they're talking about. We go here, and this is a news article in the school paper talking about Tom Morrow, while being initiated into Skull and Bones, goes temporarily insane. Let's see here. Let me go back here, and we'll show. I think I've got the full article. Here we go. Yeah, right here. Oh no, not that one. Yeah, right here. Can we see that? Okay, hopefully you can see that. Several professors and students, as they went up to the campus Wednesday morning, beheld the figure of Tom Morrow, a junior, capering around on top of the university apartments and bawling foolish songs at the top of his voice. Thinking it nothing more than a fraternity prank, they paid little attention to his antics. But when he climbed the flagpole on the dormitory and swung around on the guy rope, in most imminent danger of falling and breaking his neck, the neighbors became seriously alarmed and telephoned to the police station at the university that a university student had gone insane. The police had some difficulty in capturing the supposed lunatic, whom they found threatening to jump from the fire escape. He was finally cornered, however, and taken to the station. In reply to the question of the police, Morrow professed to know only 3 persons at the university: Greek, Grant, Tiny, Home, and Stu Taylor. When reached by telephone, Taylor denied acquaintance with the unfortunate, and the police telephoned the President Kingsbury and threw the doctor into such a state of excitement that he seriously considered making preparations to send the alleged insane man to Provo. Leo Larson, our key man, finally went to the police headquarters, explained that the affair was merely an initiation prank, and secured Morrow's release. So it's so first of all, just like we see going on with George W. Bush as well as John Kerry, when they're asked about it, the Skull and Bones members, they plead, complete ignorance to the whole thing. And then eventually you have a member of Owl and Key, which we'll talk about in a second. They are the ones that came in and rescued the individual that had gone mentally insane because of the nature of the ritual and the initiation into Skull and Bones. So Becky says, so I'm just reading the comments, so feel free to add questions in the comments. So there are those who are saying that the two Skull and Bones chapters, Yale and University of Utah, are different. Would be like saying the church passes the sacrament different in different areas. And then she says, when performing ordinance or rituals, they don't change from one place to another. These things are important to them and keep things alive. Yeah. So yes, there's no, the only separation would be, again, using that church analogy, would be wards. It's the same organization, but just because they have separate different wards doesn't mean it's a separate organization. And so it's clear that they are the same organization, okay? So I want to get into, at least to me, trying to remain unbiased here, but everybody's got a bias. So I say that they're the same, and I think that the evidence leads to that. Skull and Bones members formed Skull and Bones at the University of Utah. And so here we have, I try to keep it so it doesn't get ruined, and I want to protect the identity of the individual that gave this to me. And so I'm going to try and keep it as nondescript, or make it so you can't see who it might have belonged to. But there's an important part of this envelope. So when they are invited to become a member of Skull and Bones, or to apply to be a member of Skull and Bones, they are given a black envelope. Okay, a black envelope, and on the envelope is it's sealed with a wax seal. And on the wax seal is the Skull and Bones symbol, 322, the number on there, just like at Yale. It is the same logo. So hopefully it's my streaming is lagging, so I'm waiting to see if this is something that you can see. So if you can't, it's in the book. Hopefully you can see that. And so we have that. But then also, so that's at the University of Utah, 322. And then we have here, this is the cover. I just taken off the cover of my America's Secret Establishment book, and it's the same symbol. Okay? These are not different organizations. They have the same numbers, the same seal with the same number. They have the founder. The founders are from the Yale chapter of Skull and Bones. They use the same seals. The only difference is the same difference as, yes, 322 is underneath. Sorry, yeah, you probably couldn't, very small. And so on this wax seal, 322 is underneath that. So maybe in the book it's bigger. And so I put a scan of the book, of the seal in the book. I'm not sure if that's much better. But in volume 2 of Invasion, I have a scan of a picture of the envelope with the 322 on it. So if you can't see it, I hope you can take my word for it. Buy the book, you'll be able to see the picture of it. And so it's important that we understand that. So yeah. Yep, it's the same. It's a picture of this that I put in there. So yes, it is exactly the same. Because it's the same. It's a picture of this. So 322, very important for us to understand that what those numbers mean to them, that they have the same symbols, that as you've seen in either the previous videos or in my book, that they wear the same outfits when they are going to public events. And so there are only very few explanations why someone would say that the two organizations are completely separated and have no connection to one another or have different agendas, because the evidence doesn't lead to that. So are they ignorant and they're just saying that because it makes them feel better to excuse people that they like are a part of the organization? Are they doing it as a cover? I can't answer that question of why they're doing it, but it's either ignorance or a lie, because there is nothing that could make anybody say that honestly, that they are separate organizations. So let's see here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you. Here we go. Some of these articles that get into this. So again, I talk about, right, how we've got right here, I've got 600 pages of the members of Skull and Bones at the University of Utah. And not only 600 pages of that, but we also have hundreds of news articles in the school newspaper, hundreds of articles in the Salt Lake Tribune, in the Salt Lake Herald. We have here a dark secret. Perhaps you have observed some humble goat-like juniors who are registered in this university wearing on their coat lapels an ugly, dangling, cheap-looking, bold, but very significant can opener decorated with an impressive black and white ribbon. No, this black and white ribbon does not indicate that the designated males are in mourning yet or have been picked out of the flock by the angel of death. Neither does the can opener signify that they have joined the canned goods union or are revolting against being canned by the faculty. Somebody said, no matter how dark the secret or how strong the door, the Skull and Bones can opener. Maybe that's what it means. At any rate, the very dignified and reserved Owl and Keyers promise to start these marked men on a long, exciting, laugh-provoking voyage that will finally land them in the realms of the Skull and Bones. The chief act, all but two, is to occur in the assembly room during student body hour on Friday, keeping your eyes on the gang. Okay, so there are hundreds of articles, again, about it and talking about Owl and Key. So Owl and Key organization. So if you're in Skull and Bones and you remain loyal to their agenda, you become an Owl and Key member. And Owl and Key members are the individuals that, like when you're graduating from one level to another. And they're the ones that choose the rituals at the University of Utah for the incoming class of Skull and Bones members. So if you're an Owl and Key, you're the one that picks what the new ritual will be for that year, for those parts of the ritual that don't stay the same. And so Owl and Key is very important to understand that, yes, that is, there is that it's Owl and Key is important because it's higher up in the in the rung than even Skull and Bones is. And both Skull and Bones and Owl and Key are organizations that are, their mindset is to the future, right? Just at Yale, the same thing is it's not what they're doing at the university. It is something planned with, it's to prepare and to recruit new people into postgraduate affairs. That's something that's brought out very clearly in Anthony Sutton's book as well. Truth Seekers Media, we will upload a video of the Heart to Heart Skull and Bones right from the book library. So, so we have that on our website as well, and it's quoted from in the book, Heart to Heart, which I guess that's a good segue to that portion of what might be good to discuss tonight, is Heart to Heart, okay? Let's see here. Just going through some folks. So we have, before we get to that, we have the University of Utah yearbook with Robert Hales, and then another article, this University of Student paper, saying that he's the head of Skull and Bones. So he wasn't just a member of Skull and Bones, he was the head of it. Okay. Now we talk about the Owl and Key stuff and their positions, and this is in the other video that I have on the website. Let me see here. Sorry. Okay. Oh, is it not here? Okay, so here's the Heart to Heart. University life was wonderful and successful. On April 3rd, 1944, I was elected president of the Sigma Phi fraternity. I was also later elected to the honorary societies of Skull and Bones in the junior year, Owl and Key in the senior year. And so, some people have said, well, if it's such a secret and it's something that, that they're not supposed to talk about, well, guess what? George W. Bush says virtually the same thing in his what's it called? In his own autobiography. Let me see if I can, while I've got that on my mind. I thought that was in that one, so I apologize for that not being there, because I think it's only fair to show that to everyone. And so I'm gonna bring that up because it's I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to be able to see it for yourself. So I'm going to go to that slide and show it to you. Okay, here we go. Good. Oh, now I got to change make sure it's sharing the right one. There we go. So this is George Bush, A Charge to Keep. This is his autobiography. It says, "My senior year, I joined Skull and Bones, a secret society, so secret I can't say anything more. It was a chance to make 14 new friends." And then we have here Heart to Heart, autobiography. And he says, "I was later elected to the honorary society." So some people have said, well, it's an honorary societies are, they're just an honor. Well, no, because we see that it's honorary society. It's an honor to be is what they're talking about. It's not like it's an honorarium where they're just there. They all go through. When you're a member of Skull and Bones, when you become a member of Skull and Bones, you are initiated into the organization. And when you become in Owl and Key, you've been involved in Skull and Bones, and then you become Owl and Key and you initiate the next group of individuals into this organization. And so George Bush talked about it in his autobiography, and you have Russell Merriam Nelson talking about it in his autobiography as well. I checked Heart to Heart once on BYU, and I looked up that passage about Skull and Bones. Yeah. So it's there. It's available. It's if you go to archive.org, it's on there as well. But what we've done is everything that's in my book, Invasion, is all of the original documents. The scans of the documents that I reference in here are in the membership section of the Tree of Liberty Society website as a thank you, where we've collected it. So you don't have to go out there and find out all the different places. A lot of it, like this, is something that you won't be able to find online, and so it's just a thank you for your support. For if you appreciate what we're doing, you want to make sure that we continue to do what we're doing. You want to be a part of an organization that is working to preserve and restore lost liberty and expose the conspiracy that we face. And you want to support our efforts. That's one of the benefits of supporting the Tree of Liberty Society. And so I'd like to, on the world, yeah, Bohemian Grove, absolutely, Farm Dog 2009. So I'd like to, does anybody, on the top post here, I've asked if anybody has any questions they'd like to make sure I address, which reminds me, somebody texted me earlier about what they would, one of the questions they wanted me to answer and address. Let's see here. They said, I did have a question about President Nelson. I know that it said he was part of Owl and Key, but was that just an honorary membership, or did he actually actively participate in it? So I kind of addressed that already, I guess, just because it's a question that comes up a lot. So yes, you have to, it's an activist organization. They're heavily involved in the organization itself as Skull and Bones, and then Owl and Key members continue to be actively involved in it, as the Owl and Key members continue as they graduate from Skull and Bones to Owl and Key. So I'm just looking at the chat to see if there's any other questions that people might have. One thing that I wanted to talk about, which I haven't seen addressed anywhere else, is the idea of what they talk about goats. I don't know if you heard me talk about goats. Let me see here. So one of the this was the Utah Chronicle in 1941 writes, quote, 12 tuxedoed smoothies will complete goathood for Skull and Bones. when they will be introduced into the organization by members of Owl and Key. The traditional roller skates and short dresses has been abandoned, according to Douglas Sorensen, Goat Master. Okay, they're goats and goat masters, and they are they go into goathood. So what is goathood? What does goat master mean? A goat is a lecher or licentious person, someone showing excessive or offensive sexual desire. Goathood is to be unaccountable. The person who initiates the goats is called a goat master. Goat master is a term for someone who fornicates with a goat. Okay? So when we look at those terms that are used by themselves, these are University of Utah skull and bones words. So, I don't know how to be more clear on the fact that everything shows that these are just different wards of the same parent organization. Okay? And so those same ideas and same things that are going on at Yale that we know about and we read about, those same things are going on at the University of Utah. Do we know any remarks by Nelson Hales or others about their participation in those secret groups? Why doesn't someone ask them? That's a great question. So for Nelson, the only reference we have is his autobiography that was published in the late 70s. And there was an individual that I know, they don't live in Utah, but they actually wrote letters to every member, every general authority in the church, asking them about this very situation, saying that, this should be addressed because they swear a loyalty to the organization. Is there any? They just asked, this is an active individual, they have a calling or had a calling, and just asked, this should be addressed? Is there a divided loyalty? And so they wrote it. It's like 300 letters, if I remember correctly, including to President Nelson. And the response that he got, of course, was to be called into his local authorities, bishop office, and he was released from his calling. And then he was said if it didn't stop, that he would lose. He could lose his membership. And so to be able to keep peace with family and others, he dropped the matter. And so that's the only addressing that I have heard is the book. And then when people have asked them for it, that is the response that they received. Do I have any information of what they do in initiations to become a member? So I addressed that in the beginning of this live stream, but it's good to bring it up again. So don't worry about that. We do have the initiations are a mix, both at Yale and at the University of Utah. They have things that are set, and then they have things that the seniors choose. That it varies from year to year in the initiation. So the thing that is set, we find that the three, this is from Rosenbaum's report in 2001. He says the 3-line skull and bones initiation ritual theme that has bound 3 presidents. Quote, the hangman equals death, the devil equals death, death equals death. They were forced face to face with a shocking tableau. A guy holding what seemed like a butcher knife, wearing a kind of animal skin, barbarian look, stood over what seemed to be a woman covered in fake blood and not much else. The neophyte then approached a skull a few feet away from the knife wielder and victim tableau. The neophyte knelt and kissed the skull, at which point the guy with the knife knelt and cut the throat of the prone figure. And so you have things like that are the same, and then things that are different. In addition to the satanic nature of the ritual, other parts are intended more to impress upon the initiate the organization's impressive history, culture, and lore than to scare the new convert. Of course, not just trying to scare people. Upon initiation, the member is given a new name. Okay, satanic counterfeits to real things. Knight so-and-so. The title refers to knights of eulogia. Former year knights become patriarch so-and-so. There are order clothes, and the newborn knight is in its own special garments, implying that henceforth he will tailor himself to the order's mission. They are sworn to secrecy as to what goes on in the organization. The initiates are also given a large lump sum of money, a grandfather clock, and loans if needed to prevent a down-on-his-luck member selling secrets. Okay? Time magazine called the Skull and Bones an international mafia. And so those things continue, right? Because we have, in case you weren't here in the beginning, the University of Utah Skull and Bones chapter was formed by Yale Skull and Bones Society members. A Skull and Bones Society member here in Utah was contacted by one at Yale and said to get things rolling here in Utah. So that's all right here in Invasion Volume 2. Do you have any information on what they do? Released from his calling for asking a question. Oh, okay. So let me see if there's any other points. And so we see it's just as devilish here as it is at other places. We see in the rituals and the things that have been reported on it. This is from the Utah Chronicle again. Quote, incoming aspirants to the Skull and Bones. So this is Utah. Skull and Bones, that gateway to the mysterious owl and key, can breathe comfortably knowing that what mortal has endured, mortal can endure. Owl and key responsible. Also, we have here that in the Utonian, I'm sorry, not the Utonian, the Utah Chronicle, that the Utah Bonesmen have their own sanctified realms. So there's the, what do they call it? The tomb at the university, at Yale. But they just mentioned their sanctified realms. I haven't discovered their sanctified realms here in Utah yet. If anybody would like to give us a hot tip, I'd appreciate that. And then their own words talk about being goats, where I talked about that. And then at the Utah Chronicle again, so the University of Utah Skull and Bones, the mysterious and trying ceremonies for new Skull and Bones members will be conducted by the present members according to time-honored ritual. Okay. Present by the present officers and members according to the time-honored ritual set forth at the organization of the society in 1909 by the founders. Who were the founders? Members of the Yale Skull and Bones Society. So, again, reiterating the fact that they have set rituals that are the same every year here at the University of Utah as they are at Yale University. And let's see here. They call them, it was brought here by Yale, by Skull and Bones members at Yale. Their rites are performed at hallowed grounds. These rites are ungodly and trying, they say, and leading some to go temporarily insane even. And the rites are the same as those brought here by its Yale founders. And Yale and University of Utah Bonesmen are regularly placed in positions of prominence and power. So that same idea, right, that the people at Skull and Bones at Yale are put in, we have tons of, outside of the percentage of the population, a large amount of our presidents have been members of Skull and Bones. People, multiple have run for president at the same time. They are senators. They are heads of universities. They are heads of corporations. They are in positions of power, in all over the country. Let me go back to, so we know about University of Utah. So why has Skull and Bones expanded the University of Utah of all places, right? I believe, so this is me conjecturing, so I'm going to try and differentiate between my belief and what we can document, right? So why? My belief is because Satan sees this as his biggest threat. I believe this is where the kingdom of God is, and so, right, where God's people are, in the concentrated place, especially back in the early 1900s. And so he is going to try and infiltrate God's people as much as he can. And so that's why I believe that here of all places. So is Skull and Bones at other universities besides Yale and the University of Utah? I have not found any other chapters besides those two yet. So that does not mean, so like in America's Secret Establishment, he says there are none. And obviously there has been at least two since 1909. So I don't want to say there are no others. I just say those are the two I know about, right? What was I saying? I wanted the list of people that become. So we have Robert F. Bennett, right? This is the University of Utah Skull and Bones. He was a U.S. Senator, press secretary for Utah Congressman Sherman Lloyd, head of Governmental Affairs Office of the J.C. Penney Company, director of Congressional Affairs in the United States Department of Transportation, and bought a public relations firm whose principal client was the CIA-aligned Summa Corporation. We have John Thomas Green, who's a federal judge, assistant United States attorney, special assistant state attorney general of Utah, member of the ABA Board of Governors, chairman of the Utah State Building Authority, member of the Utah Board of Higher Education. Bruce Jenkins, federal judge, assistant state attorney general, Utah State Senator. Frank Moss, U.S. Senator, Utah State Senator, Salt Lake County Attorney, editor, George Washington Law Review, attorney for the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, law clerk to Utah Supreme Court Justice James Wolfe. Hugh Pinnock, who was a, LDS Area 70, general president of the Sunday School, managing director of the Priesthood Department, member of a mission presidency, and regional representative, president of the Deseret Foundation of the LDS Hospital, and was a committee chairman for the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce, and chairman of Wallace Bennett Senate campaign. So a Bonesman is the chairman of another Bonesman Senate campaign. So powerful positions going from the University of Yale, powerful positions, University of Utah, powerful positions. Let's see it, former BYU, Worthland. Yeah, that is interesting. Keep in mind, John. So, what we have with this is we have, again, like I said, with Yale Skull and Bones, there is only a certain year that we know, right? If you go into the 1980s and 1990s and 2000s, very hard to find people at the Yale Skull and Bones. Same thing at University of Utah. We've begun to piece together, and so that's another benefit of being a member of the Tree of Liberty Society, is we are putting together, and you can be a part of helping us put together a list of individuals, not only a complete list of those that are in like yearbooks and that kind of stuff, but individuals that we've been able to do investigative work on to find out, anybody that's a member, like if they've talked about it in their yearbooks, if for whatever reason they've talked about it in other places, we're putting together lists outside of whatever's been published by the University of Utah or the University of Utah once they stopped publishing them in the 1960s and 70s. And so we're working on that. So any other questions? I think hopefully I've covered it pretty well to show that there is, the evidence is overwhelming, that it is indisputable that the two organizations are two chapters, two wards of the same exact organization, that they continue to do the same exact things and promote the same exact agendas. So those that are saying that they are not the same, that they are involved in different things and they have different initiations, are either acting ignorantly and with the cognitive dissonance to explain away things that make them uncomfortable, or they're lying. Because the evidence is overwhelming that that's not the case, that they are the same and that they continue to perpetuate the same things at both organizations. So, let's see here. My wife is asking, is the list available if she signs up? So, yes. So we have a PDF where you go through right now. It's on the Tree of Liberty Society website of every single PDF of the pages of the yearbooks and the newspaper articles that have names and the things that they're doing. So we have all that in one place on the website. We're in the process. It's not available yet. We're putting it together. So it will be on the member portal when we are finished. And so we're in the process of putting the list together. And so as that goes on, then it will be on the member portal for all the names after that. And it'll be a list where you can search the names. You'll be able to look at, what did they go on to do, right? What were their jobs? What positions of authority did they have? Different corporations or different charities or whatnot. What other things were they connected to? All of that will be placed together. Yep. So Penny, you must have come on late. We talked about that. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. I think it's Penny, Penni. So they have been asked. I'm aware of at least one person that asked every single general authority in the church, and when they did that, they were released from their calling and were threatened with excommunication. So I think that wraps it up. If you have just joined us now and you missed some of the things, I think all of the questions have been answered, and kind of all the things that I've heard, after we first talked about it, I wanted to make sure I had all those things before, just to be able to bring to you. And if you've just joined us now, you can go back and watch from the beginning. And if a question that you have hasn't been answered, you can either email me at ben@treeoflibertysociety.com, or you can leave a comment here on this video. But encourage, if you like what we're doing, please support us and help us to continue. They're obviously trying to silence us with the things that have been going on, and they don't want us to continue. And so that should tell us that what we're doing is important and that it should be supported. And so I ask you to go to Tree of Liberty Society and become a member today. So how do we support him as a prophet? So that is a theological question that I'm going to stay away from. I'm going to just kind of go with the data and leave the, I know that's a pain and it's maybe a cop-out, but I don't, I think that's between each of us and your Heavenly Father. So thank you so much. Again, if you have any further questions, reach out to me, leave a comment here and I'll answer them. But thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you all soon. Have a good night.